Yo, what's up guys? This is my first video kind of explaining how I brought my brand to six figures in about 6 days, which is kind of crazy. I still can't wrap my head around it. So right here you guys can see in the span of a couple days, we could go from July 18th to July 25th, hit apply, $109,000. It's still possible to bring a clothing brand in 2025 to six figures. So if you guys did not know already, I do own Hidden Elements, and my whole brand is kind of revolved around Ninjago and Ninjago clothes. So yeah, my brand is kind of based off of Ninjago and based off of Ninjago characters and designs and stuff like that. So as you guys can see right here, this is like my little like rack, I guess, or shelf, and this is the hoodie that I just dropped last Friday. This is the J Lightning zip up. So yeah, I think the first thing that you need to come up with is a product. To be honest, you can have a good product and still not be successful with your clothing brand, which is unfortunate, but that's kind of the facts. Like, you can be a really talented designer, you can make a really cool piece and stuff like that. If you don't know how to market it and whatnot, then your brand is not gonna last that long. You might have a really good product and it might sell out for your first drop, but then you have to think about, the next drops or the years to come. So yeah, that's really important to think about when you're starting a brand, or if you want to start a brand, is the longevity of your business. Or else you're just gonna make a few $1,000, and then now what? You know what I'm saying? So originally my first drop was this Kai hoodie right here. I'll show it on screen. And that was literally my first sample. And I actually, after I made marketing videos for that sample, I posted it online and stuff like that on Instagram, social media, and whatnot. But I sent that sample to the actual voice actor of Kai, which is kind of like another way of like influencer marketing, but I guess it's a little bit different because she's not posting on social media like that or like promoting. But it's kind of just cool to see the actual voice actor of the character in my clothing. So I'll like pop up a couple pictures of him wearing my stuff. So yeah, that is a useful tool to have. But to be honest, influencer marketing is really risky because, people can just scam you and whatnot. So obviously the first thing that you think about when it comes to releasing clothes or starting a clothing brand is like mock-ups and how are you going to make those clothes. And I do think that mock-ups, if depending on how complicated your piece is, mock-ups can be very important for you. But just having a general idea of what your clothing is going to look like is probably the most important part, because I'd say a lot of people, especially on social media and TikTok right now, they're posting their mock-ups and whatnot, and it could have potential, but people spend way too much time on their mock-ups, which is like, I guess it's like cool to have a cool mock-up or to have like a good piece, but you really need to think about how you're gonna sell it to someone, because like having that talent is not gonna convert to sales, if that makes sense. Part of my success is from just being the first one to introduce Ninjago clothes to the clothing brand world and stuff like that. And I also think another big problem that a lot of upcoming clothing brands are making is like copying trends and copying each other, because I've like most of you guys probably already know the overlay voice that people are using, and it's like, oh, fit that has meaning or something, like a piece that has meaning or something, and then they have a little story about how they made that piece, and then they're showing the piece off. But like, honestly, it's like some people do have a meaning behind their brand, but like some people have a meaning behind their brand and maybe a certain piece, but just because someone else got a viral video doing something unique doesn't mean you need to do the same exact thing. You need to find your own kind of creativity. I don't like discourage following trends and stuff like that, but it gets really repetitive and super obvious when you're copying and following a trend like bar for bar. You kind of have to make your own twist off of it. So it's like the nostalgic trend and stuff like that. It's way too played out. And just having a meaning won't make people buy your clothes. Another thing that is not talked about a lot, or like utilized in the clothing brand space right now, or that I've observed, is the power of upselling. I know Peace and War does this, and a few other brands do this with, accessories or, smaller items. But I just see a lot of brands come out with like a t-shirt that's like really cool, like maybe just one t-shirt or one hoodie. But I think being able to sell multiple products to a person it'll increase your order value by a lot, and then in the end, more orders will have more products in them, which obviously means more money. But here's some examples of what I was selling. I was selling the Kai collection and the Master of Lightning collection, so J, and that included the mask, which can turn into a beanie, the zip up, obviously in the back right here, and the sweatpants. So, oh, and also some mesh shorts. So obviously, like, people are gonna want to have the full set, and they're willing to pay for the full set to have everything in it, because it just feels wrong to not have the zip up without the sweatpants, or the zip up without the beanie or mask. So it's like, if you're able to make matching things like that, or like full sets, and then offer a discount, then that'll definitely help you in the end. And I think the most underrated thing about starting another clothing brand is actually having good videos and like actually displaying your clothes correctly, because if you don't do that, then how are people supposed to see your clothes and stuff like that? And I don't mean just like finding an environment that looks good with your clothing. And I do think like that the graffiti and like the abandoned place kind of background is a little played out depending on your brand. But if your brand looks good in those type of environments, then it looks good. But there's a lot of people who have brands that have like that do not resemble the background at all, and that really hurts your brand in the end. So here's an example of my Master of Fire drop and the marketing that led up to that. I went to a Japanese garden, and it fits the aesthetic because it's Ninjago, so it's like obviously kind of Japanese themed and stuff like that, and in the garden. And it was also, I took pictures next to a dojo, so that's really fitting to the aesthetic, and it kind of ties everything together. It doesn't make sense to just put your piece on the floor and then just take videos of that, because like, one, no one's wearing it, so how are people going to know how it fits and whatnot? Do they like it or not? And then here is an example of my Master of Lightning drop J, and I shot in an arcade because one of the seasons actually was based off of them getting stuck inside of a video game. So it's kind of the little things like that. Another example is me going to a theme park and shooting with a roller coaster in the background, because that is where in the show Jay found his true potential. So it's the little things like that that people will realize and appreciate more for your brand, and then and in the end they will trust your brand more, appreciate your brand more, and then that shows that you care about the quote unquote meaning of your brand, rather than just saying, oh, I have meaning behind this piece. There are also a lot of questions about whether or not if brand scalers are worth the money or not, and I do think that if you don't want to learn how to run ads and marketing ads for your brand, then I would say it is worth it, depending on who you're working with. So I really think that sometimes it is luck to see, or it is luck to find the right people to work with, because there are so many brand scalers now who just are in it for the money and stuff like that, which isn't like wrong. Like you can't blame someone for chasing the bag, but also a lot of people will not have any results at all. So it's good to find people who have results and have a really concrete and detailed contract with you. because you don't want someone to be managing your stuff and then have to pay them so much money for something that they're not worth. So yeah, make sure the numbers actually matter. Make sure the numbers actually make sense when you're working with a brand scaler. I think that's the most important thing. Make sure that results are showing for what you're paying them. But I do think that brand scalers and like having a team behind you is very beneficial to upcoming clothing brands.